Hello everybody, this is a video on residential school genocide in Canada, First Peoples, and the history of all the children through Truth and Reconciliation and even more. It's not a new story, it's actually an old story. It begins in World War II with the allies of World War II and its United Nations Security Council, specifically 5 nations in the world. When you or a group of peoples or a society or a nation want to embark on an investigation of such involving a UN state in the world today, there's only 2 ways to get that process started and done properly, and I'm going to get into why I'm doing this video, why I have to do this video again. So over the last year in Canada, there's been swaths of peoples, whether it be First Peoples, government organizations, you could say NGOs, but there's lots of government involvement through those NGOs, which becomes problematic. And then there's the naysayers, the deniers of genocide. All 3 of these groups in the last year have embarked on a quest to determine if there's children's bodies present at residential school genocide sites. Known sites, well logged in the United Nations Security Council. In fact, for those who don't know, I was sponsored with a group of First Peoples here in Canada by Zhang Jun, the then UNSC ambassador to China, on residential school genocide. First time in the history of Canada any United Nations Security Council member had ever brought it up and presented it in the United Nations Security Council. Why that's important? It's one of, and the only absolute way to get your genocide case looked at. Now, we are Canada. This is specifically Canada. This is the UN state known as Canada, subject to all binding world laws by the UNSC P5, ratified even through the General Assembly, if all 5 bound it, ratified it, pushed it through. There is a secondary called the ICC, and it's an international court that rolls out in explicit detail the entire process of genocide, specifically children's genocide, women and children's genocide in any nation. They've done quite a few since the Roman Statute was finalized and put through. It's not binding on the UNSC P5. It's conditional of the UNSC P5, meaning they can't be vetoed. You've already seen this. Karim is currently the leading prosecutor for the ICC. When a country like Canada has involved itself over many, many decades in a brutal genocide, with church under state, many church organizations underneath it, after it, before it, or in the end, the government took over the site and administered, I can tell you, an hour P5 UNSC style investigation. That's all we did, is we took all that which the UNSC P5 has done since World War II, and we applied that to Canada's situation. We investigated it that way. We educated all First Peoples that we were able to reach, and we started from the top, worked our way down. Absolutely Governor General of Canada, absolutely National Chief, absolutely all regional chiefs, absolutely each individual chief. Now, we were met with a lot of resistance, but not all. In fact, one group kept it going and kept it alive. Now, since that time, my Facebook, which is the most detailed on genocide, and I mean global genocide, the work of the United Nations Security Council, all historical genocides in relation to the same type of genocide of residential school, all the same in the world then and today, everything that's happened with countries who've went through it with the United Nations Security Council. Sometimes through the ICC, other times it was just by UN and UNSC, and they're voting it forward, sometimes from NGOs, but those are the only two ways. Either way, you as the nation, you as the accused, do not dig up bodies. We are a constitutional monarchy in Canada. AFN, in its crown existence under the government and all crown appointed positions by the government of Canada, or even regional crown government appointments, should not be digging up any sites and processing any evidence. The government of Canada should not be digging up sites and processing evidence. More individual groups, orgs, individuals in Canada should not be digging up any bodies or processing forensics. There's a clear history since 1945 to what happens to folks who partake in that. And we have all three groups in the last year partaking into it. Even one university-led org financed where? By the government of Canada and even a provincial government. So right there, conflict of interest. The criminal shouldn't be doing it. There's steps and stages to doing this. It's all found in all resolutions ever passed by the United Nations Security Council permanent members, who are 24/7, 7 days a week on these files forever and a day since 1945. They're the only ones. Even nations who get rotating lose the time when they're not on the council. Rotate in, rotate out. You only get your field of view from the years you were actually on the United Nations Security Council. This is not the same for Russia. It's not the same for China. It's not the same for USA. It's not the same for UK, and it's not the same for France. They have every day, 24/7, 7 days a week since 1945 logged. That's why you go to them. That's why if you want to see this done, you go to them. Now, you can go to Karim Khan, but again, just like Palestine, if you get shot down by any one of the P5, you're done. How do you articulate that? You have to show the P5 that you're not going to go after them in any of their perceived crimes in humanity since 1945, even in the same lines as residential school genocide. It doesn't matter. They're immune. But not Canada, not our government, not all the church groups, not NGOs, not individual Canadians, or any internationals for that matter. As long as you secure the P5, you will see justice. You will see it done. But you need to go to them. You need to follow all the examples set before it. Again, you can do the same thing with the ICC. If the ICC can gain favor of all 5 P5. Because again, any one of them comes forward and they will shut the ICC down. Just look at what happened with Palestine and Karim Khan. Look at UK. And there are many, many more examples. Look at Russia with Ukraine. I'm not accusing any of these nations of anything. I'm just saying that they have the power to cut it dead to rights any day of the week they want to. That's the power of their veto as the glorious allies. If you want your children discovered and you want real justice, not a financial payment only one time by your government, who's not allowed in international law to pay out for genocide. They're not allowed. Good ways of winning allies would be addressing first Russia and USA, who also have the same exact First Peoples as Canada, one and the same. First addressment would be, we are not pursuing this against the United States or Russia, and to showcase that, you bring forward the statistics of tuberculosis. Why? Residential school genocide. All churches and the government claimed that all the murdered and missing Indigenous kids died of TB, and they were just discarded away because it wasn't important. However, a good starting point is to say USA, Russia, those claimed TB rates in Canada are 2,000% higher than all of yours in the same time periods combined. 2,000% higher. Either someone's been physically, emotionally, and sexually murdering children over these periods, or somehow TB affects Canada differently than Russia and USA. In exactly same climate conditions, same regional sphere, same peoples involved. That's a good way to win favor with Russia and USA. Not bringing up Russia and USA on the same realm of church under state, because I promise you, neither of those states participate in church under state. In fact, they have none of the mainstream religions involved in any significant manner like they were involved in Canada with the Canadian government, whichever party you want to pick, whichever provincial party you want to pick, doesn't matter. Where do you find this exact same story? Oh yeah, 1993 South Africa, the constitutional monarchy known as South Africa. It was exactly the same thing. And another big point here, everybody, is in 1994, the Liberals, with their Governor General and with their ambassador, wrote a letter to the United Nations and the Security Council, removing us, Canada, forevermore from the binding authority of the ICJ. Any surprise that it was in relation to the full dismemberment and redesign and forced implementation of a republic constitution in South Africa, where Liberal, Conservative, NDP couldn't exist anymore. In fact, none of the apartheid parties exist anymore since 1994. You can go look. Only parties that exist in South Africa pre-1994 are those that weren't apartheid, that were immune in the investigation. And if you guess they were two small parties, not really well known, and of course one is well known, but it was Nelson Mandela's party, you'd be correct. Everybody else dismembered, destroyed, and then the country redesigned with an imposed constitution until the people could ratify their own under a We the People Republic. Exactly like the United States of America and the Russian Federation. Exactly, because at the end of the day, when those two come together and they have someone like China with them, and China was all the way along with then the Russian Federation, and of course USA jumped on board, and quickly, almost immediately, begrudgingly, well, France joined, and then the last and final was, of course, UK, because they didn't want to lose their colonial jewel, right? But they had to give it up because that was the promise made. This is how people should target it. It's what I did, I showcased. Unfortunately, all that intellectual property is currently locked away by the Canadian government with Facebook, so that all 8 years of work, everything I ever did, is gone. The only thing that remains is Twitter. You can go look at Fukong, the current ambassador, but you can look at Zhangzhen, China. You'll see me sponsored there. You'll see them showcase residential school genocide. People may not like that. I contacted all UNSC P5. That's who we got. That's who sponsored it, and that's who kept it alive. It's always alive. It's always going to be there. It's up to First Peoples to make that decision going forward. Processing your own grave sites, or allowing government orgs to do it, or academic institutions funded by the government of Canada or provincial governments, or genocide deniers, residential school genocide deniers, who go in the middle of the night and take shovels and axes and picks and go try to dig up bodies. None of this is in international law. In fact, everyone participating in that can be brought to justice and can face the death penalty, like actually so many before in history. They got not only jailed in The Hague, but they ended up getting put to death too. If you want to look at those cases in recent time, there's lots in the ICC. You can look at all the African nations where folks tried to do exactly what Canadian groups are doing today. I'm not saying that's going to happen to First Peoples, but why would you want to contaminate these sites? Why wouldn't you want the world authority on genocide with the power and the might, who can actually investigate all of the government of Canada, all the provincial governments, all the organizations involved, and then they can come back to you, the people. Now, they would impose, because they know you have no civics, just like every other country in the world. They've had to do this before. 84, in fact. They've been quite busy since World War II, even though no one ever hears about it on the news. Surprise, surprise. But hey, I found it funny as I was going through this, and I made my post today. After, of course, my Facebook brought down, I had some unscrupulous media companies give me a shout. Of course, one is one of those involved with another media company with these groups of lunatics going out to dig up bodies because they're going to prove something. It's unbelievable. This November I'll be in ECOSOC on a related matter, but not unrelated. But all this will be going forward too. The only reason why I make this video today is because the literally dozens and dozens and dozens of massively detailed videos and epic amounts of UNSC resolutions over and over the decades, all the crimes against humanity that no one could ever try before 1945. But the Allies made that possible, giving us human rights, at least globally for the first time ever. Does everybody follow it? No. Are the Allies under the grips of some of this corruption today? Yes. I know it. I see it. I'm no stranger to it. But it doesn't mean we don't try and we don't keep course correcting and going through it. This is my advice to all parties involved, especially the First Peoples. Go to the UNSC P5. Don't go to the Government of Canada. Don't go to Ontario Human Rights Commission or the International Commission of Jurists Canada, because I promise you this November, if you hang on, you're going to see in ECOSOC this November another monumental amount of work I'm undertaking. And I can't deal with everything. No, I can't stop anything. I'm just a Canadian subject, but I can bring forward in respect of the P5 to the P5, a log of everything. And it's they alone who have the power in this world to make all the changes, all the implementations, fix Canada for all people. Now, I would love Canadians to wake up, but unfortunately, like every other country before us, the people don't wake up in masses, and the atrocity, the sickness, the corruption only gets worse and worse and worse until it's beyond epic proportions. And we are there in Canada. Most people will start feeling it in the next 10 years, 20 years. Rampant socialist, fascist designs don't work. Crown colonials never work. This is my video. This is my advice to all parties. Go to the ICC. Absolutely, unequivocally, go to the UNSC P5, specifically China, Russia, USA, UK, France. Regardless of how you feel about this world, regardless of what you've been told in garbage lies, that is the only path forward. And it was only created since 1945. Before that, it's never existed in human history, ever. The opposite has always been the case. That's my video. I hope it helps a lot of folks. Karim Khan, ICC. Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield, United States of America. Ambassador Vasily Nebenza, Russian Federation. Ambassador Fu Kong, China. Ambassador Barbara Woodward, UK. Ambassador Nicolas de Riviera, France. Those 5 you must submit to. You have to win those 5. Because any one of them vetoes you, you're done. Genocide can never be paid off by a government. That's not how it works. Justice must be served. It's a crime. Criminal court. International criminal court. And if it can't be brought there and it can't be brought forward, then you must go to ICC's highest authority, who rules them when they feel like it, the individual ambassadors of the 5 nations I listed for all of you. You must go to them. That's my video. Share it out there. Get it out there. That's how you get change. Anything else is an epic, absolute lie. And it's an epic travesty against all First Peoples and all Canadian peoples. When a criminal government and criminal organizations, civil societies, religions, groups, orgs, call it what you want, when they don't pay for their crimes and the people, victims of their crimes, or people who had nothing to do with their crimes, but the government was doing it anyway, and those wealthy individuals run away with all the money, and they're not financially or criminally held to account, you're in a corrupt society, and you're in a socialist, fascist state. Socialists make all the little people pay for crimes of the ruling class, who's still ruling and still will commit those crimes because they've already done it several times in Canadians' history, and they'll do it again because that is socialist fascist. That is the nature of the beast. This is my video. Help me. If you like what you heard, subscribe to me. When I hit 1,000 followers, I'll be able to do YouTube lives. I'm removed from the Facebook platform. I'm there, but I'm not allowed to use Messenger. I'm not allowed to use any live stream. And my political account, an unregistered party that I was working on across Canada to bring down the crown, the socialist fascist regime, was removed and is locked away in a vault, and I'm allowed no appeal. Why? Not because I committed any crime, but because I told the truth, because I chose to follow my great uncle's footsteps and be an ally of World War II, which everyone on this earth should be, but we're not. And Canada isn't. Canada is that which was Axis and some ally, all socialist fascist, because they're crown colonial, aka constitutional monarchy. There's other civil law socialists or extreme dictatorships, but we are a pure autocracy, and it needs to be stopped. No different than South Africa, no different than the crimes Israel's committing on the Palestinians today, built in the constitutional monarchy known as the British Empire, running the laws of socialist fascist regimes. 2018 basic law of the Israeli people that matches the 1933 enabling act of the German people. Isn't that just a kick in your face? If people can't see that or talk about that, there's something wrong with you. The 1949 Asiatic Indian Act of South Africa, and then the oldest of old, and there's many, many more folks in many, many more socialist fascist regimes today, but the oldest and first codified for all the others to learn. That means Nazi Germany, Zionist Israel, and South Africa apartheid. They learnt it off the 1876 Indian Act, first codified example in the world history for all others to follow. How to genocide, how to rape and murder children, how to destroy a people's truth. Subscribe, help me get to my 1,000. Share, because it's the right thing to do. I will keep putting up more intellectual property lost and locked away, but I don't know how long until they hit me again, at least in this fascist socialist country known as Canada, but I'll never quit. God bless, share, get it out there, educate as many as you can. Bye now.